moved from the federal health, education, and labor statutes. And now the term that they like you to use is intellectual disability. So we've taken mental retardation and mentally retarded out, and we've now put in the term intellectual disability. Mandated reporting. This is something that's really important that some teachers may not know about, but if you are a teacher, you are a mandated reporter. So teachers and other professionals that work with children are required to report suspected abuse or neglect, even if you have no proof at all. If a teacher has knowledge or observes a child being subjected to conditions that would reasonably result in harm to the child, the teacher is required to file a report. A reporter calls and gives facts and circumstances. So just say you're a teacher and you think something is going on with that child. I'm not really sure, I can prove it, but I think there might be abuse at home. Well, you call and you give the facts and the circumstances, even if you don't have proof. I made a call one time because there was a student I was just concerned. There were several things that I thought, I'm just not so sure everything's going great at home. I feel like I need to make this call. If I don't make this call and something happens to this child, I could be held liable and I would be very upset with myself. So I made the phone call. I called DHS and I said, I think these things are going on. But when you call, you don't have to call and explain. They ask you every question they need answered. So when you call, you need to have their name, their address, their birth date available. So when you call, they ask you, who are you calling about, where do they live, what's their birth date, what's the problem, and they'll guide you in making the report. Even if you don't have proof, you still need to let it be known if you think there's abuse. The one time that I called, they said they didn't think I had a case, but I took care of my legal responsibility and let them know that I thought something might be wrong. And when you call, you can call anonymously. They don't have to know who you are, but it's in your best interest to give them your name. Because if you don't give them your name and something happens to that child, they don't have proof that you called to take care of that situation. So I will give them my name, but they will still keep it anonymous, and I don't have to have them tell my name when I call. So although the caller will remain anonymous, it's a good practice to give your name to the agency you're reporting to in order to cover yourself. Like I said, I gave them my name. They're not going to give the name to the family if they go out and check on the family, but at least they have in their records, I did my job, I took my responsibility, I followed the law, and I reported because I'm a mandated reporter as a teacher. In Oklahoma, the phone numbers to report suspected abuse to DHS, there's one for developmental disabilities, 918-794-7600, and then the Oklahoma Department of Human Services, 918-581-2401. So you can also, this is the website I use for some information, you can look up on the child welfare online to find some information on reporting, mandated reporting. And this is just some information on mandated reporting. Examples of court cases that influence special education. In 1954, Brown versus the Board of Education was separate but equal schools. In 1970, Diana versus the Board of Education, primary language must be used to test, which is what I was explaining earlier. If a child speaks Spanish and you give them a test in English, they're not going to understand it. In 1972, Pennsylvania Association for Retarded Children versus the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And this was for free public education must be guaranteed by the state to all children ages 6 to 21, regardless of the age of impairment. I'm sorry, the degree of impairment. And in 1980, Armstrong versus Klein, special education is provided year-round. They get provided education all year. Okay, a couple more court cases to talk about. In 1982, the Board of Education, the Hendrick Hudson Central School District versus Rowley, addressed what is appropriate education for a student with a hearing impairment. In 1989, Daniel R.R. versus the State Board of Education, proper class placement. And in 2005, Schaefer versus Wiest, addressed if parents or school districts bear the burden of proof of a hearing. So these court cases show they are evidence that the rights of students are taken seriously and they need to be followed. I mean, there are plenty more court cases to show that lawsuits do take place if children and parents are not treated under the laws of education. So, impact on my classroom. I am extremely sensitive to the needs of all children in my classroom. I've worked with children in a reverse mainstream capacity, as I mentioned before, and I have had students mainstreamed into my general education classroom, as I mentioned before. I make sure that all students, regardless of their abilities or disabilities, are treated equally and fairly. I have met with parents during IEP meetings and discussed their child's specific needs, and I have attempted to guide and mentor the children and their parents to the best of my ability, offer suggestions and help in all aspects I can. We have a concern regarding when I have a concern regarding a specific student, I contact that parent directly and I point them in the right direction and give them referrals when necessary. I will contact the speech pathologist, like I said, the daybreak counselor or the school counselor for support and guidance when it comes to the needs of my students. And I've come to find that working together with all the professionals in my building makes teaching much more beneficial and fulfilling. If there are gaps that I can't fill, there's someone else in my building that is able to help me fill that gap. I realize that parents have the right to privacy, and so I make sure I honor that privilege as well. They don't want us to go telling all of their business to other people, and I respect that. My philosophy on special education. I believe that all students are all students are unique and special in their own way, in my eyes. Each and every student should be afforded the same experience in education and life, regardless of their impairments or disabilities. All students should be treated with love and kindness and be treated equally. It is important to me as a kindergarten teacher that I take my job very serious and I seek help for all students that require extra assistance. It is extra work. IEPs are extra work, 504 plans are extra work, calling parents and talking to them is extra work, and sometimes you do it on your lunch break, after school, extra time, but it is worth it, and it is our duty as a teacher to take care of that. I've had the pleasure of meeting with parents, working with professionals, and giving referrals, and I'm aware that I need to support parents just as much as I need to support their children. When a parent hears from a teacher for the first time that their children may have a learning disability, it can be extremely hard for them to handle. And when it comes to teaching, patience is virtue. You just have all the patience in the world to teach. At my educational team, it is imperative, as I mentioned before, working together with the people in my building, that school staff work together to properly meet the needs of students in their classroom. When a teacher suspects a child may have a learning disability, it is their responsibility to seek further assistance to accommodate their students. RTI meetings are a great place to start, as I mentioned before. These meetings can include, like I mentioned before, the counselor, the speech pathologist, the principal, the special education teacher, and other school professionals that may have come from outside your building. Once a child is recognized, it is the child's right to have appropriate and multiple assessments. Then referrals can take place and a diagnosis can be made. It takes a team of professionals to make this happen. And once the diagnosis is made, an IEP can be written with the collaboration of the school professionals and parents and guardians. And once this has taken place, the team can agree on appropriate placement for the student. IEPs will be maintained and updated with educational support and staff and parents. And so in conclusion, the laws and rights of students, parents, and families and teachers have come a long way over the years. And they are clearly written out for us. They are listed for us to know. So since we're able to study them and learn them, what is expected of us, we should be able to provide a proper and fair education to all students, regardless of their exceptionalities. With patience, honesty, and integrity, teachers will be able to help students with special needs to become successful adults and productive members of our community. And as it was stated by the Campbell Law Review in one of the journal entries I read, the most essential objectives of a public education are to prepare youth for citizenship, vocation, and a satisfactory personal life. So here are, I did that again, my spell check. And so here are my sources I used, listed out for us. Some books, a journal, our textbook, some things I read online. I read many different things to come up with the information, and I use a lot of personal experience to come up with the information in these slides. And I want to thank you all for watching my legal presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to watching yours.